extraordinary meeting, and I really appreciate everyone doing this at the short notice, as well as a big thank you to Alison and Amanda for putting together the paper with regards to what is going to be discussed today. So, is there any apologies before I move on?
Yeah, Catherine Black and Wayne Thomas.
Thank you very much. No worries. Okay, is there any urgent business anybody wishes to raise? No? Okay, right. So, in the interest of time, I'll move on to the paper. Amanda, to yourself and Alison.
Shall I take the lead, and then Alison can chip in as and when, help me out when needed, because she's got better brain on pensions than I have. So thank you so much for today. This was a proposal that came in by the Chief of North Wales Fire Rescue Service, Dawn Dodds, who is the pension lead for the NFCC. And it's connected to, and the reason it sort of affects us first, this proposal, is this change in governance arrangements which is happening with fire authorities. So you'll know that legislation's been passed, and on the 1st of May, fire authority, although not formed up yet, will be a different beast to what it looked like before. So it's going to reduce in size to 15 members, 10 of which are going to be local elected members, and 5 are going to be additional members appointed by the Welsh Government. This means that we're going to become more streamlined, and then those arrangements are going to be mirrored in the other 2 services from May next year after the elections. So they're going to become, in fact, much smaller, 9 members each. So we go down to 15 and they go down to 9. I think one of the triggers for this conversation at this stage is we're about to move to the fire authority with less capacity. Generally, it's your fire authority that has members on your local pension board, and it's the fire authority who is the scheme manager for the firefighters' pension schemes. So we're about to go to a smaller size. We're going to have cabinet members from councils who have less capacity for work because they've got very busy roles in the council. So that's sort of, I suppose, the driver for this. What is the paper about? I'm not going to take you through all the paragraphs, but basically, in essence, is the recommendation is that we consider as a pension board whether there's a more streamlined way of dealing with firefighter pension oversight, and that is by delegating authority to a combined scheme manager for Wales and a combined local pension board for Wales. What does that mean? So for us, it would actually improve our governance arrangements with better scrutiny. And the reason for that is we have been doing our best, I suppose is the best way to describe it, since the intervention with commissioners. So the commissioners said they didn't want to get involved in pensions. So Alison's been sort of holding the delegated position of scheme manager, which I know has been very stressful for her. And then we've had the pension board chaired by an assistant chief fire officer. And again, not putting down anybody's contribution because everybody's worked really hard on this, but we don't have, for example, a chair who's a pensions expert, which is what for greater scrutiny would be the optimal arrangement. And of course, that person with that expertise would then give better, hopefully, good advice to the fire authority members as scheme as a scheme manager. What are the other benefits of this approach? It would be more efficient in terms of combined meetings to avoid trickling up across Wales. So that would mean less local pension board attendees from each service. So you still have to have the equal mix of employer and scheme member attendees. Less members, therefore, needing to keep up to date with their knowledge and understanding requirements of the Pension Regulators Code of Practice. There would be a sharing of pensions knowledge and best practice across all Wales, and hopefully a consistency of approach to pensions across Wales. So there are lots of potential opportunities for benefits. I have very happily been able to have a conversation with Gareth in advance of today's meeting about, what would the union's position be, or what do we think about this proposal? And I think there are a number of key stakeholders which, and I'm glad we were all in the room today, but a number of key stakeholders where I think we need to look at this proposal in a lot more detail to make sure that we have everybody's buy-in before proceeding with a trial. And those are the Welsh Government, because in due course there might be a need to amend regulations. So I think the Welsh Government would be key. The Chief at North Wales says she has Welsh Government support, but we haven't seen anything formally or in writing from them, so that's one matter. The pensions regulator, I think at the very least we want to notify them of this proposal and potential trial, but they might well want to be part of consultation anyway. The National Scheme Advisory Board, obviously our pension scheme administrators, any concerns that they might have, and also the Fire Brigade Union and other member representatives on the board. So really this was an opportunity for us to say, right, let's chat through what the potential benefits might be, what the potential concerns might be, because the proposals we moved to a trial towards September, so we've got a run up to this. So what do we think needs to happen between now and then if this is something we want to consider? So I think I've been talking for long enough, so I'm happy to open the floor. And if I hand over to Alison, you can help.
Thank you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is give you some background context and then talk about where I see things from the scheme manager's perspective. So we know that fire pensions expertise is limited across the UK and in Wales. We know that the LGA are doing a piece of work around a direction of travel of having a single scheme manager for fire pensions in the UK, so that's in England particularly. Through their due diligence, they shared some facts with us. So currently in England, there are less than one full-time equivalent persons working on pensions in each FRS. So there's not a lot of resource out there and expertise in this field. And of course, we have a shared pension technical lead with North Wales, who is Kim, sat next to me, who does a brilliant job for North and South in terms of keeping us on track and aware of the legislative requirements and changes, because this world is very complex. I can say that having worked in other pension schemes in government. So from a scheme manager's perspective, absolutely support the direction of travel in terms of moving towards a single pension board and potentially considering a single scheme manager in the future. However, I don't underestimate the amount of work that's required to get there. So each FRS or FRA has a scheme manager and a local pension board. So the logistics alone need consideration, and Amanda's already touched on those areas. So the meeting construct, the resourcing model, each FRA has a set of discretions that it agrees with its pension board. The scheme regs, we can see that there's perhaps opportunity to move towards a single local pension board, but I'm not absolutely certain they're clear in terms of a single scheme manager role. So I think there's a lot of work to be done both with each of the FRAs and Welsh Government in sort of, the mechanics of making this work. So there's some due diligence that we absolutely need to do. I think also there's an engagement piece, not just with Welsh Government scheme managers, our pensions teams. We've got our administrator who sat on this call, who is not part of this scope, but I'm sure you'll understand with a direction of travel of a single pension board scheme manager, that has potential implications for RCT, who are our pensions administrators. So whilst out of scope currently, I would imagine the pensions administrators will be nervous about the direction of travel. So I suppose that's where I am as a delegated scheme manager. I'll pause there and invite comments. I think probably Kim may have some observations as well as technical lead.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I think I agree with both principles. There are look forward and maybe an ambition to maybe potentially share resources more collaboratively in whatever guise is a definite sort of win-win with regards members sitting on the board and their time. I'm not convinced there are any efficiencies beyond that. You will still need 3 operational teams. As mentioned, we currently have 2 administrators across Wales, and South Wales and North Wales won't mind me saying that they are both currently either just signing an SLA or working towards signing an SLA. That will clearly obviously tie us in for a considerable period of time. I'm not sure if this board is aware, a very similar question was posed at the Scheme Advisory Board for Wales, which Alison and I sit on, along with Helen MacArthur and other national representatives, where that scheme, actually Gareth sits on Scheme Advisory Board for Wales as well, and a question was asked last year, in fact, in the summer when we met, whether there could in fact be a thought towards one local pension scheme in Wales, because each authority does struggle with maintaining membership, quorum and all of that. To be fair, Welsh Government went away, took some time to look at the regulations, which you've got there, their own guidance, and came back with an extract that basically, in their view, it isn't currently possible under regulations in Wales to have an all Wales local pension board. What they did caveat that by saying was there wasn't anything in the regulations to say that we couldn't work collaboratively across Wales, but definitely a change in legislation would be needed for an all Wales. Now, maybe the paper is just written in a different terminology, and maybe that is what is trying to be achieved. And they've also confirmed that it's not possible to have an all Wales scheme manager approach either. And just a point of clarity on the report, which I do appreciate has come in from North Wales. On one of the first bullet points in 3.1, it says here that the responsible authority is Welsh Government. That's not the case. The responsible authority is the Fire Authority stroke, in our case at the moment, temporarily scheme manager in each service. The Welsh Government are the holders of the regulations, 2 entirely different roles. And what it does say in the actual legislation is that actually the responsible authority is the last or current Fire Authority that scheme member, pension member works for. So there's no getting away from that. To be honest with you, that's written in the legislation. And one other small point of accuracy I just wanted to raise, point 3.3, in the report it says local pension board is accountable to pensions regulator, National Scheme Advisory Board, which I'm assuming means South Wales, and administrative authority. They are not accountable to TPR. TPR is an independent body that gives advice. Yes, they have code of conduct, code of practice, and they have power. But the local pension boards are not responsible to. The local pension boards actually are responsible for and to the members of the pension scheme. And whilst they work alongside the fire authorities, they are not accountable to the fire authorities either. This body, this local pension board, in a way is a standalone body, meeting group. There are no voting rights, there are few decision-making powers. So from a governance point of view, what they've tried to do, and in the legislation, is say this group here is here to ensure that each fire authority is administering their scheme appropriately. And that is the role and the remit. So that's it from me, just a couple of points of clarity. Going back to what Alison was saying about the work required to even scope this out, let alone change things, I am extremely doubtful that is achievable and realistic by September, if I'm perfectly honest. Because I think the first place we need to go is Welsh Government, because in Wales, the services are waiting for 2 consultations for 2 national changes in legislation. We have been waiting over a year because of resourcing in fire pensions. And currently, we are in abeyance for those changes in regulations until the earliest December of this year. And that's on the back of legislation changes in England that have already happened to do with MacLeod and O'Brien and Matthews. So I think if there is a desire, and Welsh Government can support it and there's a change in regulations needed, I would be extremely surprised if they can get that off the ground.
Gosh, that's so helpful to have that history of what's gone before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's really helpful.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Gareth, Dave, Ian, anyone else who's to come in on the matter? Come on, Gareth.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And firstly, just to say thank you for bringing the paper. I think it's important that we look to assess how the pension boards are working and make sure that they are working as intended. Thanks also to Amanda for the brief chat last week and making space for that. That was helpful. Just to clarify the position from which I'm speaking now, which I think is important, slightly nuanced, but important. You shouldn't really consider this formal feedback from the FBU. It isn't really my role whilst I'm sat here as a scheme user board member. That being said, obviously it will reflect that experience that I have. Yeah, I think I think Kim may have stole my notes before she spoke, because if I'm honest, she's made a lot of the points that I wanted to. So I thank her for that, and I'm in agreement with the points made. The headline from us really is, or from me, is to maybe to slow this down and to take a bit more time to assess certain elements of it. If we had, or if I had some initial concerns, they would be around local access and visibility for scheme users, where that pension board was then moved to an all Wales kind of setting. Also, some high uncomfort levels, which I think as a board we would need to recommend, we need to look into legally around an all Wales scheme manager. I mean, it is my view, without advice, but my view, that I'm not sure that you can take the role of scheme manager or the responsibility of scheme manager away from the employer who holds the responsibility for that pension. I don't think that we'll be able to get to that place. But I mean, look, the bottom line is I think we need to probably check these things from a legal perspective. Clearly, at the moment, the regulations are really clear. The scheme manager is the fire authority. There is no question about that. Certainly, they can delegate functions from that, but not responsibility. I suppose I'll finish up. So what my recommendation would be, that if we were going to move forward toward this position, the first step would need to be some form of formal consultation, which would allow the Fire Brigades Union, for example, to formally, in writing, record their views on this. So I think that's really important. It's not clear to me who would facilitate that consultation, whether that be Scheme Advisory Board Wales or Welsh Government, but I think it would need to be as high level in all Wales as that. And then I suppose the final question is, what exactly is the issue that we're looking to fix here with this paper? If it is more expertise, there are other ways to do that, right? So if we could, for example, have an independent chair that we employed that chairs all three local pension boards, that was a pension expert. We could do that as is now as such. We wouldn't structurally need to change how things are. So I think we need to weigh these things up. But the headline from us is we'd like to see it slow down a little bit and some form of formal consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Anyone else? No? Okay.
In terms of sort of, because what I'd like us to get to is a position where we can give very detailed feedback to this proposal, to particularly North Wales who are driving it. In terms of the list of stakeholders that we believe need to be involved in consultation, can I just make sure I don't miss anyone on the list? So I've got Welsh Government, the Pensions Regulator, the National Scheme Advisory Board, the Pension Scheme Administrators, Fire Brigades Union, we've got pension administrators within the service. Is there anybody else I've missed? And then,
Yes, so the Fire Brigades Union,
yeah,
just being pedantic, don't sit on the local pension.
no, okay.
Employee
So
representatives.
the employee reps, yeah.
Yeah, and that, if we're talking union side, isn't just the FBU.
Yeah, no,
So it would
absolutely.
have to be all representatives
Sort of
of
trade
the
unions.
Greybuck,
Yeah.
those representing on-call colleagues, those representing the Fire Leaders Association,
Yeah,
and any others. Personally, I think we need to be careful on the language used, because Gareth and I have had conversations over the years, Gareth, around his responsibilities and his role when he sits on the board, he's chuckling there. And they don't and they shouldn't sit on the LPBs as union representatives.
No.
They're representing the employee
Yes.
pension scheme members, so.
I've had a similar conversation
Yeah.
at Avon, so
Yeah.
I understand. It's sometimes because it ends up being a union rep,
Yeah.
it does it. You
Yeah.
sort of, your
Yeah.
mind wanders to that,
Absolutely.
being the hat they're wearing,
Yeah.
and it can get confusing,
Yeah.
so I understand that. Okay. Is there anybody else I missed on the list at all?
Do we think we, oh, sorry, Al.
I was going to suggest the Scheme Advisory Board. I know they're Welsh Government driven, but they,
Yeah, Scheme Advisory
separate,
Board for
yeah.
Wales.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got those on, yeah.
I mean, obviously Fire Branch are separate
Yeah.
to Scheme Advisory Board for Wales, because they hold the legislation.
Yeah.
And do we feel that this needs to go to pension scheme members?
I don't know.
It's a good point, isn't it?
What do you
Yeah.
think about that? Because they have the biggest stake in the governance here.
Yeah.
Anybody on the screen?
Gareth's got his hand
You?
up, his legacy hand, Gareth, new.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's helpful to have the list of stakeholders, but I also think the consultation should be an open consultation, so that if anyone, I think that answers the last question there, or point that was being discussed. If anyone feels they wish to contribute to that consultation response, they can do. The list is really helpful though, because we could, whoever is facilitating the consultation can potentially write to make those interested parties aware. And Kim makes a really good point. You noticed how many times I had to correct myself from saying we to I in my statement. So it's really in my contribution. So it is really hard, but I am not here in respect of representing the Fire Brigades Union. So the Fire Brigades Union and other rep bodies will want to respond on this.
I think it's my understanding of a consultation of such magnitude where there's likely to be a legislative change, that I think Welsh Government have to consult publicly,
Okay,
but you'd have to obviously
yeah, okay.
pick up with them on that.
I suppose, so the question posed by North Wales was whether we would consider a trial, and it's whether a trial itself would need a change in legislation. Now, my view is it's neater to do it properly once rather than try and stand something up. But your point about having a shared experience beforehand might be a way of moving in that direction, I
Possibly.
suppose. Yeah, okay, okay. So it sounds to me like this isn't ready to be considered by commissioners. It needs a lot more work. Yeah, okay. No, that's been really helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that has been, yeah, because I think there seems to be unease within the room around can it be achieved?
Yeah.
And also the length of time it would require to be achieved as well, with some significant changes to legislation as well. So I think Gareth's point, we would probably need to be clear on, isn't it, around, Amanda, I know you articulated this really well as well, is around that, what are we trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Because I think, to Kim's point as well, you'd still end up with those three departments, you still end up with the overall authority being the Fire Authority or Board of Commissioners, wherever you look at it. But I do think, I mean, it's well worth raising and going into that formal consultation to take that feedback and having that information as well. Sorry, Kim.
Because let's not forget, looking across at Liam, I know we haven't been introduced, but there's a financial aspect here. Each authority, each service owns the pension fund. Yes, it's the members' money, but legally, the decision maker, I believe, whether it can be changed. It certainly currently is the scheme manager for that authority because it's their pot. It sits on their balance sheet. You know, and Alison alluded to, there are other things that are local, there are discretions across the country. So, and we are working towards discretions that are more collaborative in working, but in practice, the 3 services in Wales could have very different discretions. So there's a pre-formed list of discretions, be approved by the fire authority. And that's all within their rights, you know, each fire authority, each scheme manager, each pension fund has different aspects to it. I think that's not to be taken lightly.
No, absolutely.
How would it work would be my question. If you do achieve one scheme manager across Wales, if they're the decision maker for 3 separate entities, how would that even sort of work? Something to consider.
No, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go on, Gareth.
Yeah, just briefly, because I think Kim articulated it better than I did. I think that problem sits with responsibility and liability if the scheme manager was separate to the employer, because I think the pension sits as a liability and responsibility of the employer as is, and not only from a regulatory perspective, but from our perspective as a local pension board, when making recommendations to the whatever governs us currently, the commissioners, soon to be a fire authority, it would seem strange to me to recommend that we ask them to not be in a position where they're making decisions around things that they have a liability and responsibility for. Otherwise, we could end up in a situation where someone else has made a decision around something that ultimately the authority are liable and responsible for, and then that seems problematic to me.
That's a really good point, actually, and reminds me my previous authority, the decisions about whether to go early on MacLeod and Sargent, that had a financial implication.
Yeah.
So that would be something, even though you'd have members on a All Wales scheme board, it's whether a scheme manager role, it's whether that is sufficient influence for a big financial decision.
And that's a very good example, because in South, we went immediately. We made a local decision, 1st of October, we went. We did 55 immediate detriment cases.
Wow, okay.
No, Mid and West didn't do any.
No.
And North Wales eventually decided, and they maybe did 2 or 3. So you got nothing, all of ours, and something in between, but very low. So, you know, the example Amanda's picked there actually is a very good way of demonstrating how local decisions can be very, very different based on risk appetite or, I don't know, expertise in the service, or whether they can link in with, in our instance, our administrators that were, you know, were really helpful. You know, Mid and West and North are with David Pension Fund based in Carmarthenshire. You know, they obviously have a different relationship. So there's those things to consider as well that potentially add another layer of complexity.
While we've got brilliant expertise in the room, the thing that I mentioned to Gareth was the possibility of recruiting a independent pensions expert as a chair of this board. I know that they have one at Mid and West, and I had in mind to start making inquiries about that. Is that something that this board would support? Having, you know, I think these people charge on a day rate basically because they're experts. I mean, I'd have to check with Alison, but I know at Avon we did a formal recruitment round where we had people come in and for interviews and chose somebody. But there is someone currently being used by Mid and West. Now we share pension advice with North. It's weird, we miss out on Mid and West, don't we?
Yes, so they didn't want to join the arrangement that we set up previously. But having seen an independent chair for SARB, Scheme Advisory Board Wales, I think that works really well. So I think Matt does an amazing job, but I would support that direction of travel.
There's a lot of independence there as well, isn't it? When you talk about transparency, and independence is somebody that knows the subject very well.
So shall I take away an action then to explore the possibility of an independent expert chair at this board, and also explore any options to work collaboratively on the local pension board basis? Would that be that, because it's the scheme manager bit that seems to be the biggest concern, doesn't it?
Yeah. Gareth's got a question. Come in, hold up.
Yeah, just briefly, and it's on the point about the independent chair. I mean, yeah, I think more expertise can only be a good thing, right? So, on that principle, I'm supportive of it. What I would say though is that in the new governance model by Welsh Government, I do feel that part of that around appointed members could be a way to find some expertise in those areas. It wouldn't be shared between the three services, but I would imagine that that is the principle of appointed members.
Yeah, you make a really good point. I've been through a process for both appointing additional members and pension chairs before, and getting it's that small. There are a small number of people with this expertise. Unfortunately, it's really, in fact, one recruitment round I did, I only had one applicant. So it's really difficult to find. So if we happen to have an additional member who also has special expertise, that would be a wonderful bonus. But I'm not holding out much hope for that. And that process, Gareth, because of the timeline, they're not going to come online until October time at the earliest, unfortunately. So it's whether we want to wait until then before that to see what skill sets that those people have.
Thank you. So let's push this now probably to some actions. Oh, sorry, Dave.
Just to add to the conversation, I'm sure we are all aware of the complexities of the different pensions within the fire service framework. And I remember Phil Haynes kicking it round the park many years ago when the board was first put in place. And when he announced his retirement, there was such a furore of emotion as to who is going to carry on and so on and so forth. It doesn't seem to me that there are many experts with regard to fire service pensions in the UK. I might well be wrong, but I used to remember from my service days that in mess rooms, the experts were the guys who were having dinner or lunch or tea or whatever. So it's going to be quite a difficult task, I feel.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Thank you very much. Certainly, I would agree with that. It is going to be a challenging one. So, are we in agreement then regards to some actions here now? So, obviously, the first action, I think we need to be very clear on what we're trying to achieve by this. While North Wales is obviously pushing their direction, it's not to say that it's the correct direction as part of that. Is there a need to continue that formal consultation, or is it felt that the group would rather pursue an independent chair at this stage, as opposed to...
I think because we're moving towards a more streamlined fire authority, it would make sense to do the consult. I mean, that's my advice to the board, just simply because I don't know quite how it's going to work yet with less people. Do you see what I mean? So at the moment, we're very lucky. We have 4 commissioners who know all the ins and outs of it, but don't get involved in pension stuff at all. Whereas we're moving to a model where there's a lot less people. And again, I don't know what their capacity is or what expertise they have in pensions. So I would probably recommend that we do feedback that a consultation would be a good idea. How achievable that is in short order, I don't know.
And I don't know, but the first point of contact, whoever's leading on that, would need Welsh Government, because they're the only ones that can formulate a consultation about their legislation.
Would you be able to forward to me the piece of work Welsh Government did on this last summer?
It's not this work, just an email, but I can forward it to you.
Is that all right?
Yes.
Because that'd be really helpful in terms of the background and the fact that they looked at it previously. So I think on any view of things, it's got to go back to them for them to reconsider the opportunity of the consultation.
Yeah, I agree. I think probably Welsh Government should in my opinion, own the consultation
Yeah,
because there's a legislative link. But that's a question we can put to them.
So I wonder whether the action for this group is exploring with Welsh Government whether there's any appetite and whether this is possible. The last thing we want to do is consult with groups and then find out there's no appetite of Welsh Government, we can't take this forward, the regulations don't allow us to do this.
That makes
So I
sense.
think that would be the action for this group, is to have discussions or exploration with Welsh Government.
We shouldn't do that in isolation though, because if
No.
we're talking about an across Wales approach,
yeah,
Yeah,
I would recommend that any contact or reach out to Welsh Government needs to be done collaboratively,
Yeah.
the three services at the same time.
yeah.
But how, who or what leads on that,
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
And I would suggest earlier rather than later, because if Welsh Government say, no, we're not changing the legislation,
Yeah, then
then
we
maybe
can
we need to look
speed up
slightly,
our own arrangement.
Yeah,
differently
yeah.
at it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
and just obviously then the final action as part of that then is obviously to explore the options around an independent chair, because at least if we ran that side by side with the other work, one may come out and then obviously offer us a more robust outcome as well while we wait for those changes or further information. Okay,
I can discuss that with the independent chair at Mid and West, see what appetite there might be for that.
thank you, Amanda. Okay, are there any other matters regarding this?
It's been really helpful
It has,
discussion, really helpful.
And again, I'd like to thank everybody for their expertise and support in the room with that as well. And a big thank you to obviously Kim, Julia, Alison and Amanda for all your hard work around this subject as well. So it's really appreciated. Oh, sorry, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just wondering, curiosity more than anything, is there any feedback at this level from Mid and West?
I had an email from the chief this morning. Basically, I think along the lines of this room, we need to look at this carefully and whether it's needing the opportunity to get advice from the experts, basically. So not saying not interested, but saying, yeah, broadly supportive, but think that the devil's always in the detail, isn't it? And we need to make sure that we consult and get the advice we need. So he was, I think, concerned. He didn't want to delay everybody else because I think he recognised that, of course, for us, the changes in fire authority are happening much quicker. So he was saying, look, I don't want to cause a problem here, but I would like to explore in more detail. But I think from this meeting, I can go back and say we're all on the same page. We all want to do that piece of work.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Amanda.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
One last question. So we've had a really good discussion here. So we've got, I think, a consensus that we need to slow it down. We need to explore whether it's possible and whether, in the first instance, Welsh Gov will support that. Are we linking back in with North Wales, given Dawn Doc's paper?
Yeah. I'll do a summary. I'll make sure that I consult with Alison, and I've been writing furiously when you've been speaking, so I think I can feed that all back to her and say that, I think they've already suggested an All Wales scheme manager meeting next week. So I think if we can get that meeting in the diary and go through all this feedback, and then we can agree next steps between us. So it'll be all three services who go to that.
Good. Okay. Oh, sorry, Gav.
Oh, you've moved on the screen.
Yes,
Gareth.
that's it threw me a little bit then.
Yeah, sorry to prolong the discussion. It was just for clarification here at the end. I mean, as a local pension board, I think my understanding is that we don't necessarily make decisions, we make recommendations. So this will go to the commissioners now as a recommendation that we move forward exploring a potentially independent chair qualified, and also that we get some more advice and approach Welsh Government around their position. Is that correct? Thank you.
It's a matter for this board to decide. There's two ways of doing it. Either we pull the paper to the May meeting and take the view we go back later with more detail. That's one option. The second option is to say that the local pension board have considered this paper, that this is what they've asked for. But I'm almost tempted to say let's take it out of the agenda because there's going to be another meeting quite soon, and we've got the AGM at the beginning of July. That would give us a time for the All Wales meetings to take place. So I wonder whether, Gareth, that I think we maybe, you know, hold fast for now and wait until we've got more that we can put in that paper, and then if we need to stand up another extraordinary local pension board, we can do, can't we?
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you. Okay, I think we've got some actions over there. If there's no other matters rising, I'll bring the meeting to a close. And thank you all for your attendance and obviously hard work with the matters. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a lovely day. Take care.
Have a nice day, all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.